to this week's Author of the Week interview. Our Author of the Week this week is Judith, and she is a young adult author. She'll be telling us all about herself in just a moment, but before we do, I'll just remind you how the Author of the Week interviews run. So Judith has seen 6 questions, so she has had time to prepare her answers for those. And then we have our mystery 7th question, which will be new to her. So I'm going to hand over to Judith, ask her to introduce herself and her writing.
Hello everyone, I am Judith and I have written a few books. Just one of them is published at the moment, that is The Backwater. That's a young adult crossover book which was published back in November 2018. And actually it was a finalist in the 2019 Wishing Shelf Awards, which was really super exciting. I have another book coming out later this year. Dance With Me is coming out in October. That's another young adult crossover book, this time quite a lot longer than the other one. And it's all about a girl who finds herself in a world where folk songs come to life.
Fantastic, thank you. And we maybe have an opportunity to discuss some of your other projects along the way with the questions as well.
Yes, one of the questions, the answer is from another book.
I thought it might be, so I thought I'd just mention that. That first of all.
I am planning on releasing some other books in 2021, 2022, I can't remember what we said. But sometime in the next couple of years.
Okay, so we'll make a start with our questions. So the first one, like you mentioned, you were a finalist in the Wishing Shelf Book Awards. What was your initial feeling when you first found out about that?
That they probably got it wrong. So when I saw that my name and the book title was listed in the email that was sent out by the competition organiser, I actually just couldn't believe it, and not in a kind of, oh, I can't believe it way, but actually, oh my goodness, I must have made a typo sort of way. So it really, and then it kind of went into excitement after that, and that kind of lasted.
Good, yeah. Okay, super. And thinking about books that you've read now, rather than ones that you've written, have you ever read a book and wished that you had written it?
Yes, I would say I've thought of 2 books that I would apply that to. And the reason why I've chosen those 2 books is because of a kind of 50-50 combination of really strong characters, strong likeable characters, and a good plot which moves at a really good pace. So I write crossover fiction. I would say both of these books are crossover fiction because I've read them both as a grown-up. One of them I read as a child first, and have gone back to as a grown-up. One of them I read as an adult. The first one, which I read as a child and still absolutely love, is Charmed Life by Diana Wynne Jones. I would very happily call that my own. The characters in that are incredible. And the world that she creates, she seems to create it absolutely seamlessly, and really brings it to life. And also the story is fantastic. It's a great plot. It's a great story. I can't ever believe that no one hasn't made a film of it. So it's just crying out to have a film adaptation done.
So if you're watching this and you make films, bear
just
that
in
mind.
case. But first of all, make one of mine. The other one is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Now, Neil Gaiman, I think, was quite influenced by Diana Wynne Jones, and I think they were friends. And again, it's that combination of great characters. I absolutely adore Silas, and I'm not someone who generally falls for vampires. I'm not like into Twilight or anything like that, but I absolutely adore Silas. And the plot in that, it's just moving all the time, and all the time it's bringing in these characters, and then at the end they all come together. It's great. It's a fabulous book. Yeah.
Okay, so you cheated the system and went for 2 books instead of 1.
But I figured it worked because the authors knew each other.
Tenuous. So, next question. Which do you find easier when you're writing? Do you find it easier to plan, or do you find it easier to just go for it?
Well, I love to plan. And I find planning is very easy. That doesn't mean that when I write it up, it follows the plan I've done. But no, I would definitely say I'm a planner. I'm a list maker. So I really, really like lists.
Yes. And as well as list maker, we can add to that control freak.
Control freak, yes. Yeah, definitely. List maker and control freak. And controlling list maker.
That's a very specific one. So you may not have come across that one before.
No, I love making lists. But yeah, like I say, once I get into writing, I've usually just planned like the bare bones of the plot, and then it's like little bits and pieces dropped in. And I love it where I'm really into writing, and I'll write all these things that I think are going to be really clever because I'll bring them in later on. But then there's like months or even years pass between me writing chapter 3, where I've dropped in all these great hints and things, and chapter 4, by which time I've totally forgotten about them, and it's only when I'm rereading it through and I'm like, why am I doing that? And it doesn't really make sense anymore.
Okay. So
that's the danger of not planning.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I planned with the first story that I wrote. Not the first story I finished, but a story that I started when I was really young, so about 10 or 11. I even planned the list of fates. And they were terrible fates. Some of them, it was like, some people died, which was awful, but even worse was remain single, which at the time seemed appalling, but now I'm like, I'm quite happy with that.
Okay, so you plan, but then you're open to kind of deviating.
Yeah, I plan, but then I also allow the muse to descend.
Okay, yes, very good. And now for a slightly crazy question. If you were a plant, what would you be?
And this is like a plant that grows, not a plant in the audience.
That's true, that is what it means. Yeah. Although I'm interested to know about that one too.
Well, if I was a plant in the audience, I think I'd be in a magician's show.
Okay.
I think I'd be like the one who was like, this can't be happening, rah, 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 like a heckling plant.
Okay.
Like those ones in the Muppets.
Yeah, oh yeah. So now the actual question.
And now, if I was actually a plant that grew, I'm really struggling with this because the only thing I can grow, although I do spend quite a lot of time trying to grow things and spend a lot of time at the allotment these days, the only thing I can actually grow is, hang on, we're just having a Blue Peter situation here.
Hello, Blue Peter dog.
Is radishes. Now, actually, radishes might not be such a bad bet because they feed us. I like to feed people. I like to cook for people. And also they're a bit prickly. And they prickle you. So, but really just when you're trying to pull them up. So they're fine otherwise. Like they don't
just
go
when
after
people like, well, they're not trippids is what she means.
Yes, so it's like you have this kind of defensive sort of thing. But then inside, stop laughing at me. Inside they're nice.
Okay, yeah. Underneath they're nice, actually.
Yeah. Underneath the soil, the prickliness.
Oh dear.
It's him, he distracted me.
Moving on then to question 5. So, at the beginning you mentioned your book that's published, the book which is about to be published later this year, and then we just hinted at the fact there are lots of other books also in the pipeline. So bear that in mind for this next question. Who is your favourite character in any of your books?
Right, now this is another one I'm going to ask for clarification on. Right, is this my favourite character to write or my favourite character to read?
I'll let you have both.
Right, okay. Well,
Excuse me.
it's tricky. I mean, there is a character in one of the books that hasn't been published. Obviously, I only have the one published at the moment. But it's hopefully going to happen over the next couple of years. And it's a character called Napier in Honor's Rest, which is another young adult novel. And I would say I always have that kind of character in most of my books, but he's really the ultimate one that I have. So I usually have like a seemingly aloof sort of middle upper class gentleman type. And depending on what the story is, depends on what the relationship they have with the main character is. But the rule is they're never the main character. I would say he's my favourite character.
Are we talking to read or to write?
Well,
I think he's just your favourite.
I think
overall.
he is my favourite overall, but I suppose I have others that I'm more proud of because I feel like they're more rounded for everyone and everyone can enjoy them. Whereas he's my favourite character because he's like someone I feel I would like to meet and get to know. But I enjoy character development, so I enjoy being able to develop characters, whatever they are, whether they're my type of person or not. So, but I'd say him.
Yeah.
The short answer was him.
Yeah. And the long answer was just a few moments ago.
Yeah. But you wouldn't have been happy if I just said that.
That's true. And it wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever.
No.
Okay, right. On to the last question that you know about then.
Okay.
All of your writings, published and upcoming, place supernatural and fantasy into the real world setting. How important do you think that is to a young adult audience?
Well, obviously I think important because that's why I'm doing it, you know. I think that being a young adult is all about like exploring the world around you. I mean, being a human is all about that, but especially at that period in your life and things are changing and you have to work out what the mark you're going to make on the world is going to be. And I feel like if you can add some fantasy into a setting that people are familiar with, then that almost broadens the horizon for these people. And so these readers who are looking for something that's going to be theirs, and you're showing them that anything's possible, essentially. I mean, it may not literally be possible, but you're exploring different kinds of characters in a real life setting, and they could be one of those different kinds of characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. So would you say from your own personal point of view, so the books you read as a young adult, rather than thinking about it from a crossover point of view, where you read them as an adult, but they were young adult books, would you say...
Books.
Sorry?
Crossover books.
Crossover books, sorry. Would you say that it was important to you that a book you read as a young adult had that supernatural or fantasy element to them?
I would say I can't think of a book that I read as a young adult. I can't think of a book that had a big impact on me that didn't fit that sort of criteria, yeah. But I read a lot. I still read quite a lot, but actually as a child I read more. And so I can't remember all the books I read, and I almost certainly read, in fact I did read some real life, very realistic type things, but they didn't have the impact on me that the ones that mixed real life and fantasy had.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the mystery question. Okay, now I don't know. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've been following Judith's Author of the Week on Twitter, but at the start of the week she put up a blog. So she wrote a blog for us, and we shared it up on the Crowver's Book blog. In it, she featured some of her very early writing.
Very, very, very early writing.
Very early writing. And to be honest, if you haven't seen it yet, we'll try and attach a link to it in the post attached to this video so that you can find it, because it really is, I'm going to use the word endearing, I think, but it's very impressive too, actually.
Yeah, for a 7-year-old.
Yeah, given the age, a 7-year-old, that's quite impressive. She illustrated these as well, and I have a favourite picture amongst them. You have to see what yours is, which of the pictures is your favourite, and post a comment on the bottom of the blog, and we'll see if it's the same one as mine. So bearing that blog post in mind, your recent blog mentioned some short stories that you wrote when you were little. Which of these stories would you most like to go back to and rewrite?
Well, it's difficult because I think it also mentioned that is the only one I have a copy of that I wrote at that time. So Olaf and Mabel, just I'm not sure they're gonna make it. And then I remember I wrote this one about the girl going off to university, which made perfect sense because I had 2 siblings, so my brother and sister were off at university at that time, and to me it just seemed like the ultimate you were grown up thing was to be at university. So I mean that one was 3.5 pages long, so that was practically done anyway, publishable. But unfortunately it doesn't exist anymore.
But can you remember some of these?
I remember that she said, "Are you sore?" "Yes, I'm sore." But that's it. And I remember the general plot, and I remember being very proud of just how long it was. And that was 3.5 pages typed.
Yeah.
So that is quite long. I mean, I would say that was probably in the region of 1,500 words. So that,
that's quite impressive. Yeah.
Just finished already, obviously. And then I think I wrote one about an ice monster. Oh, an ice cub. The ice cub. That's what it was called. The ice cub. Yeah. And it was all about this child who found an ice cub. But I think I was probably a bit biographical about Clemency.
Is Clemency an ice cub?
No, she would have found an ice cub.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so none of those very, very early ones. But I did write one when I was about 10, which was called The Warnay. And I would go back to that one. So The Warnay was like a big wolf-type evil dog creature.
Sounds scary.
It was... I actually was very pleased with that one when I was little, and so pleased. It was handwritten, that one, because I think we would probably be between computers at that point.
10, yeah.
So it was handwritten, and I actually wrote it up, like in neat handwriting.
That is commitment.
So I obviously thought it was quite good. I would say that's the earliest one I would go back to, would be the Warnay, yeah. But I do love to take out Olaf and Mabel and, be fond about them.
Yeah. And do you think that any of those stories that you wrote back in those days, when you were very small, do you think any of them have impacted on the stories that you write now?
Yeah. I can see that characters were important, and what you could say about characters, even in what their name was. Bearing in mind that Mabel, I'm not sure, was famous for being a Viking name.
No.
But, I had Thor and I had Olaf, and these are names that immediately tell you something about the person. Because if you see Olaf, then you think, well, Scandinavian or Viking or whatever. And I think that is what is still coming through in my work now. Is that I hope when you see the name of a character, it immediately tells you something. You may not click what that something is until you're further on, but names are important, and just telling someone about something in the smallest way possible is always a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Is there anything you would like to add to your audience?
Well, if you've stuck with me through the last 10 minutes, then thank you. Your life will never be the same again. No, I just to say thank you for watching. I mentioned on the live stream that I did a couple of nights ago that really I would love book reviews. So that's what I'm on the hunt for now, because I'm not meaning to sound like, oh, look at me, but I have people who come up to me and say, oh, I really enjoyed your book, The Backwater, and it is really fantastic when people do that, and especially when they're people who don't really know you, which is great. But at the same time, I just kind of want to go, oh, please, would you review it then? So I just put out a general plea for reviews. I've got a really cunning plan for the kind of review tour idea for Dance With Me, which is coming out in October. So watch this space for that, and if you would like to be involved in that, then please just get in touch with Quovis.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Judith. You have given us much amusement
and
sneezes, but some really, really good answers as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Judith is our author of the week for another 2 days. So you can...
we're doing the big book cover reveal.
Yes, exactly. I'm getting to that. Just talk about stealing thunder. So you can keep up to date with what Judith's up to on the Author of the Week hashtag on Quovis. As she may have just said, stole my words, we have the book cover reveal for Dance With Me on Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, fine.
Yeah,
Sunday's good.
We'll start taking like strips away from the cover over the top, and show you it a bit at a time, and then by the end of Sunday you will have the complete book cover. So that's something to keep an eye open for. Right, I think that sums up the interview. In that case, have a great weekend, and see you next week.
Okay, bye.